And we are now live. Good evening, everyone. You know who it is. That is right. It is your boy, Marcus A. Wright. That's right. The CEO of Wrightmentality, that emotional intelligence guy, the adaptability intelligence guy, the personality guy, all of those things where you think about what makes you a person holistically. That's what I do in my coaching. That's what I do on my show. This is LinkedIn Live this week, the emotional intelligence discussion. And I'm so honored to have this gentleman on my channel with me today. I have Gerard Catus. Let me tell you just a little bit about this young man. He has been in film. He's been on theater stage. He is currently in, oh my God, on BET right now, on Kingdom Business as Chief Ray. He has raised his family. He has children. He's an actor. He's probably an activist, and he does so many different things. I am so honored to have him on my show today. Super excited. So, Mr. Catus, I'm going to just let you tell these folks a little bit about yourself before we jump into this whole emotional intelligence discussion.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, brother Marcus. Thank you so much. What an honor for me to be invited to be a part of your broadcast. I really appreciate it, and this is kind of new for me. I'm not used to being interviewed, so I'm looking forward to the experience. I'm looking forward to it. Well, I don't know what to say after that great introduction, man. I hope I live up to it, brother. I am an actor. I've been acting for quite a few years. Not going to tell you how many, but it's been quite a few. Stage has been my bread and butter. That's my background. I was one of those actors born and raised on the hardwoods, as we say, with idols that I had coming out of theater like James Earl Jones and Morgan Freeman and a slew of other actors that come out of that era of serious Black talent. So growing up and watching them do their thing was an encouragement for me to continue. However, as you mentioned, I have a family, had obligations. I'm also a veteran. I served during the Vietnam era honorably, and made those commitments to do what I had to do in this world, in this life. So my acting career often looked like a zigzag. It was not a straight roadmap. It was all over the place. And I was very, very blessed. And I look at it as a blessing that now, back in the early 90s, I was able to, the path put me in a direction of my life back toward theater. And I was living in Maryland at the time, Baltimore, Maryland, and found a wonderful community theater. Community theater, not a professional playhouse. This is community theater. But it gave me everything I needed to have to kind of nourish and reignite that passion that had been dormant during those earlier years as a family man, a husband, a dad, an airman in the Air Force, all those different things. This gave me the opportunity to get back into it. I've been fortunate. It's been a long road. It's not easy, but I've been working ever since.
So, as an African American man working in this world today, you did the military life, you raised your family, you went into as you said, a small community theater that you ended up falling in love with, probably doing stage plays and things of that nature. What was that like for you as one going back? And I know you're a young guy, you can say whatever you want to say, but you are a young man that has just been on a journey to be able to educate all of us. So if we go back, let's go back a little bit to your military career. When you stepped into that, what was that like for you? Because you said a Vietnam era vet, we were still going through a lot of transition in America in this country for people of color from different parts of the world that came to the country. What was that like for you emotionally? How did you handle the different transitions? How did you control how you were feeling with maybe some frustration and then getting ready to raise your family? What was that like for you?
Chaos, 100%. Threw me for a big loop. First of
Hmm.
all, the Vietnam era, more specifically, around 1968, and the
Hmm.
10 offensive had just occurred. And instead of the majority of the Americans seemed to want us to exit this conflict, except the government seemed to be escalating everything.
Hmm.
And the powers that be came up with a draft lottery
Hmm.
based on the number of years, the number of days in a year,
Hmm.
365, and your birthday. So it was a lottery. The numbers were thrown into whatever kind of way they did it, and you got a number
Hmm.
from 1 to 365. And that
Hmm.
told you when you had to report or if you had to report for duty.
Okay.
My number was 8.
Ooh,
That meant pack your bags, son, because you about to
you
leave.
gotta go. Oh,
You
wow.
are going. And at the time, I was a student, acting student at the famous Negro Ensemble Company in my home of New York City.
Okay.
So my first transition was to go from this world of expanding your mind and your horizons as an actor
Hmm.
to stand in line, shut up, look straight ahead,
Hmm.
don't deviate. You don't have a personality anymore. You're an airman, you're a soldier, you're a Marine. And that was difficult to say the least for an 18-year-old kid.
Got it.
I didn't understand the rules of the game. And very often you've heard the phrase, I can play any game or in any game as long as I understand the rules. I didn't know the rules
Mm.
of the game. So I was truly lost until someone sat me down and said, these are the ABCs of what's happening. And once someone explained it to me, I was able to make the adjustment, do my duty, serve my
Hmm.
tour, which was 4 years of active duty and 2 years inactive right after that. And then I was done. And I was honorably discharged. I served the country and did what I had to do. Now it was time to
Wow.
pick up and start all over again, transitioning back to being a civilian at 24.
So I'm hearing a couple things, and we're going to fast forward eventually, but I think this is a
Mhm.
very good point. As a person that does emotional intelligence and adaptability intelligence, one of the things that you said that you felt emotionally was kind of chaos. It was chaotic. You were trying to figure your way out. You were a young man. You knew that you had to go, even though you probably weren't ready to go. Your parents had to adjust to that. And then you mentally had to get prepared and emotionally to go into that situation. And then we fast forward, you go through it because you don't have a choice. And then you come out at 24 years old, and now you have to adapt and change to civilian life. And when you had that adapting for yourself, was that a difficult transition, or
Yeah,
was it something that was a little easier for you being the person that I have come to know?
it was once again difficult. I have come to take on a phrase, and that phrase is military is not a job, it is
Mm,
a way of life. And whether you're in for 4 years of active duty, as I was, or 24 years, you are indoctrinated.
okay.
It becomes everything. It tells you when you get up, when you go to bed, what you're going to eat, when you're going to eat, what you're going to wear. So, what thinking am I doing? Not
Not
much.
much.
Not much, brother. And you find yourself in that rabbit hole, but it's a method of survival. So now you're ready to get out. And you
Okay.
think, okay, this is going to be, let me go back to what
That's
I
not
was
gonna be
doing.
correct. Right.
Now you're out there, ain't nobody there. Nobody's telling you what to
Mm,
do. No one's feeding you. No one's housing you. No one's telling you how to clothe you or dress. So you're out there going, wait a minute, what am I doing? And if you don't have the proper
mm,
support
mm,
mechanisms
mhm,
in place to help you get through that transition, well, let me say this. One of the largest demographics in our homeless population in America today are
mhm.
veterans. Are
Wow.
veterans,
Now
male
that's true.
and female.
That is definitely a big crisis in America today, and I'm very well aware of that. My dad served during the Vietnam era in the military as well, on the USS Enterprise, from what I
Mm,
was told. And he's no longer here. But we're not talking about
bless
me
them.
and my dad. Let's talk about you some more. So you went through that transition. You're raising your family. You're doing the theater thing. Now, what is that like for an African American man trying to act, break into this? Like you said, the people that you looked up to, James Earl Jones, probably Sidney Poitier, and those guys were doing some fantastic things, but the doors were not completely knocked down for us. So, what was that like for you to make that transition, and how did you feel?
Let me not miss this opportunity to say thank you for your dad and your family's service.
Thank
Quickly,
you, sir.
just the transition back, it seemed like nothing was working. I went back to
Mm-hmm.
my native New York City. The year was 1974. That was the year of the first oil embargo. That was the year, for anybody in your audience that is of a certain age, maybe over 50, they might remember that all
I
around the
do.
country, gas prices at the pump, we used to pay 35, 50 cents a gallon for gas. Then all of a sudden it went to $1 and $1.50. Now we look at it at $3 and $4 almost.
Now, hold that thought for 1 second. Now, I just got to point this out. You know, every Gen Zer and every millennial watching this right now is probably trying to figure out, when was it 35 cents a gallon for gas?
Prior to
I didn't mean to interrupt.
1974. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
go ahead. I'm
In
sorry. I knew
in
that
my
was,
lifetime, I have seen it down there.
yeah.
So in New York, we got to a point where you had to be given a color code: blue, yellow, green, red. And that color code told you what day you could go to the gas station and buy gas.
Oh, yeah. These kids wouldn't survive that today.
No. Every civil service position in the city of New York, hiring freeze. Here
Mm-hmm.
I am a civil servant coming out of the military. And
Mm-hmm.
I have an excellent opportunity to join in the ranks of New York City's finest: corrections, fire department, heck, trash, sanitation.
Mm-hmm.
You just want a job, you want employment. Nobody. Everything was a freeze.
Mm.
Decide to go back to school, use the GI Bill.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a wonderful community college in the Bronx, Bronx Community College. Never got my GI Bill. So guess what? I had to drop out of school again to go to work.
Mm.
The system was overloaded from all of the men and women that were being pushed out after
Mm-hmm.
1974. Because now, different from 1968 and 69 when I was drafted,
Right.
now the emphasis is everybody out.
Right.
We're out. We're getting out of Saigon. Everybody out. I was not even thinking about acting at that time, Brother Marcus. I was so consumed with how am I going to feed myself? How am I going to feed my
Mm-hmm.
family? Where am I going to get work from? Acting was the last thing on my mind. This is 1974. And believe me, it was a roller coaster ride until
Mm-hmm.
I got a couple of very good breaks, and I did find a great job. I went into the airline industry. I won't mention the airline, but I worked for the next 8 years for one airline. And then after deregulation in 1981, 82, I separated from that airline, but I stayed in the industry for another 8 or 9 years. So altogether, I spent about 16 years after military in airline transportation.
Mm.
And I
So when did you transition to acting?
1990 in Baltimore, which is the city that I was last employed in the airline industry, was in Baltimore, Maryland, at Baltimore International Airport, commonly known on the East Coast as BWI. And that's where I was employed. And that's kind of where the thread started to unravel a little bit in that work environment. And I took then my one of my sons, Aaron, took him to a audition for a boys choir that Baltimore was trying to create, a city choir for boys. I heard about it on the radio and decided to take him there. We went. He got to sing a song that he and I had rehearsed, but they got very interested in the fact that 20 years, almost 18 years earlier, I was a student at the Negro Ensemble Company. And I said, it's been so long. I don't want to, I'm not even in that mindset. I really wasn't even thinking about it. But the folks at the wonderful community theater, this is a Black-owned community theater. In fact, to this day, it's one of the longest continuously running Black theaters, community theaters in the country. It's called Arena Players. And Arena Players gave me a wonderful opportunity. Said, we'd love for you to be in our show. We don't pay because this is community theater. We do it. We rehearse in the evenings and blah, 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 blah. I did this show with them. And I remember opening night of this play was somewhat of a comedy. And I called my brother, one of my brothers, after the performance, and I said, I can't believe I just did this. It had been 20 years since anything like that. And I said, it's not the applause. That's great.
Right.
It was, I got on a stage, the curtain came up, we all did our parts, we all remembered our lines, we moved where we're supposed to move, when we're supposed to move. We had an intermission, we come back, curtain comes down, the end of the show. It was that completion. It was that full cycle event. We opened at 8 and we closed at 9:30 that night, and it just felt amazing.
So after you did that, you took your son to an audition. Then they found out about you. You did a play, and all of a sudden the light bulb comes on for you, because now you completely and utterly enjoy this. You know this is what you're supposed to do because you're feeling in your heart. You called your brother, you talked to him about it. Well, when did that next break come? Because I've seen you on The Residents as a patient. I've seen you as Chief Ray on Kingdom Business. And I've seen you on a few other things as I started looking you up. And I was like, wow, you've been around doing some good, incredible stuff. So when you started to move in that, what challenges as a person did you have? Being an African-American man, you've seen, as you gave your story from the beginning, you went to the Vietnam War, you got through that, you came home, you adapted, you raised your family, you're moving along, you worked for the airline for 16 years, you're doing that work, and then you switch utterly, completely, and go into acting. You find out you enjoy it. Now, I got to know, what was the challenges like for you as an African-American man? I'm sure it was a little different than what James Earl Jones went through and Sidney Poitier, because they kind of knocked down the doors for you and other people to be able to do that. But I'm really interested in what were your challenges and what was that like for you as you got bigger roles?
The challenge was I still had a family. I still had obligations. And how could I meet that and yet not let go of this obvious passion that I had, that I've always had, that I wasn't working with for, like I said, almost 20 years, and to come back to it and find that the passion is there, but people were saying, and you've got a talent. And I'm thinking, it's been 20 years. I have a talent? Oh my God. The Arena Players gave me several other opportunities to work in community theater. And the next thing I know, I'm in a play in Baltimore with the professional actors, the ones brought in from New York City and Los Angeles and all over the place. These are the pros. And I met such wonderful people. And I had the most awesome experience of working with high caliber, well-intentioned, super talented folks of color, directed by the same. Super great, super intelligent, super artistic directors, teachers. So here I was acting, but I was learning. I was literally in class every time I was in a production. Now, the challenge of doing that and still trying to find a job that would support me and the family and so on, that never went away. In fact, quite honestly, that didn't go away until maybe in the last 10 years or so, 8 years, when I fully retired. Now I'm retired. I have a pension, Social Security. I'm an old man on the crutches now, Marcus.
You are not on crutches, and I am not going to believe that.
Well, no, I'm not. And
you are
my
full of life.
daughter
I can see
Marie
it.
would be cringing if she heard me say that.
Oh,
but
I know.
Yeah.
Because your
and
daughter is extremely direct.
Both of my children, the older two, and that's Marie and Aaron, constantly try to remind me of the days of my youth when they watched me exercise. They watched me work out and say, no, we remember the guy that you wouldn't go to bed without doing a routine. You did sit-ups, push-ups, and all that stuff before you even got in bed. I'm like, you remember that? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, wow. So they hold me to a high standard, Brother Marcus. They definitely do.
But the thing is, they hold you to a high standard because as being a dad, first of all, and defeating the stereotype that us as African-American people have to deal with on a daily basis, that we're not there for our children. We don't do this, we don't do that. But you raised your family. Your children got to see you triumph over many different things. And I know we're just scratching the surface. So Mr. Gerard Catus will be back because there's so many more questions to ask him. But they watched you do those particular things, and they watched you never give up. They watched you deal with all the different emotions that you had to deal with inside, from whatever you saw when you were overseas during that time frame, to dealing with everything in America, to now being an actor. And as you're acting, your career has continuously grown. Because let's just talk for a second about Kingdom Business. You're Chief Ray, like on a very big show on BET. What is that like dealing with all of your cast members? Because you deal with some significant cast members there.
Oh, absolutely, brother. I'm talking true A-list. Start with Miss Yolanda Adams, the Miss Yolanda Adams, Queen of Gospel, and a wonderful person, a fabulous actress. Brother Michael Beach, who plays Bishop Calvin Jordan, Michael J. White. And then we have the the honor of having folks come in like Lou Gossett Jr., Loretta Devine. I mean, they put together such a great cast. And then the younger talent that makes up the rest of the Jordan family and the surrounding. I'm looking at these younger actors and actresses, and I'm going, these kids are super good. So I'm blessed to be in the production. I'm not sure that I was supposed to stay in as long, but the good man upstairs put me in the right place at the right time. And here I am 2 seasons later, 16 episodes, and I'm in 13 of the 16, something like that. So that's a great ride, man. It's been a beautiful, wonderful experience.
Now, just hearing you say that, as a person that's had the opportunity to speak with you, it's not just, and I believe definitely, I will never take away that the man, God gave you that path and you were able to walk and he's opened the doors for you. But it's also a testament of your ability to control your emotions, be emotionally intelligent, and to also to be able to adapt to the significant amount of changes that you had to go through. You went through the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, into the new millennia, and now we're in 2023, but you never gave up. You continue to persevere, and you've instilled a work ethic in your children that I'm probably sure, at least your daughter that I know personally, she has a very high work ethic like her dad. So what I'm going to ask you as a father to a father, for these young people that are out here today, even some that are my age that don't know, what they really want to do, what advice would you give them to get to everything that you had to go through? What advice would you give them if they're going through challenges right now?
Heavy question, Brother Marcus. Thank you for it. Adaptability, which is something that you're referring to, not allowing yourself to get in a direction and you can't maneuver left, right, up, down. You have to be and continue to be adaptable as you journey through this thing we call life.
Mm-hmm.
We are, particularly as men of color, we're like boxers. We have rounds that we win unanimously, and we have rounds that we get knocked down.
Mm-hmm.
You have to dust that floor mat off of you and get up and get going again. Not giving in, not giving up would be a disrespect to all of every story you've heard about our survival in this country to start with. We are survivors. Having faith, and I'm not preaching one faith over another, but if you have a spiritual base where you believe that there is a greater power, whether it's God, Jesus, Muhammad, Yahweh, whatever you want to call, the sun, the universe, no matter how you refer to it, give that deference to that higher power, and then be and stay humble, stay respectful. Know that stopping is not the answer. Moving forward is where you will find your answer. And believe in yourself. You have to believe in yourself. I had the good fortune, and I know this is not directly your question, but I think it's relevant, if I may.
Yes, sir.
After, let me just say, there was brought to my attention an opportunity to work with military personnel, and this is years after my time in service. But under President Obama, a program was started. It was, at first it was voluntary, but he made it mandatory It was to help all the military personnel, whether they were just getting out because they've served their tour, or they were 20, 30-year retirees. It didn't matter if you had 2 stripes on your arm or 4 stars on your lapel. It didn't matter. They wanted you to have this transition assistance. Transition assistance to help military personnel of all branches, male and female, understand how to navigate back to being a civilian. When I heard about this program, I went, ooh, that's very interesting. I applied, and I was fortunate to be selected. And I worked at that for almost the next 10 years. That's where I retired, working as this transition assistance facilitator. And I traveled from the East Coast to the West Coast, from north to south, all around this country, going to different installations, military bases, facilities, delivering this information. The Department of Defense, Department of Labor, I forgot the third. It's Defense and Labor, and I forgot the third. But they all combined to put this program together. It was amazing to stand in front of a room of personnel, military personnel, and share what I learned, not just what was in the textbook, not just the PowerPoint, but Gerard walked these steps. I had to transition from Vietnam back to the civilian world. And I stumbled and fell all along the way. I felt like I knew the pratfalls that were in front of them, or could be in front of them. And I had experience in the classroom as a corporate trainer by this time.
Okay.
It was a perfect marriage, if you wish. Got a little bit of a reputation of entertaining because I'm the actor. So telling jokes or making the room not heavy and stuffy, but light and airy, because that's how people learn. When they're relaxed and they're having fun, they retain more of the information. But brother, seeing the light bulb go off on a young man or a young woman or a spouse, because they could attend also. I was like a subcontractor. It didn't matter. The money wasn't important. I'd get an email from somebody that say, "Hey, Mr. Gerard, you really helped me. You turned my life around." And then it was like, okay, I'm going back to do it again.
So I have go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's it.
I have a question. Before we in the interview, the first question, and the question I have is, what is the one word that you would tell someone to help them transition or get through anything that they're going through? I know that's difficult, but just give me one word that you would think people need.
Hope.
That's heavy. Hope.
Don't give up.
I love this. I love that word. So, Mr. Catus, I'm going to ask, because there's so many different questions I want to ask you. So I'm going to ask one day soon to get you back on the show so we can talk more about the acting stuff. But I do have to ask you, how can people reach out to you? How can they contact you? How can they watch your show?
Oh, I'd love for them to tune in. It's, by the way, it is BET Plus, one of the BET's other streaming devices. So you got BET,
Okay.
BET Star, BET Plus, and Kingdom Business is on BET Plus. We just aired our second season. That's a great thing. And we're now waiting for the feedback of whether or not we will be blessed with a season 3. The writers did their job. They wrote one heck of a season 2. So we're hoping, and then the actors did their job. We're hoping that that's enough to have those. Yeah, the executives say, yeah, we're going to give you a green light, give you the blessing, and go for season 3, because I can't wait to get back in the acting blocks with that. But I'm also looking at many other projects. Actors, we don't sit still on one project, man. We got to keep moving. Did I answer the question?
So how do I? What time do I watch it? What day?
The episodes air. All of the 8 episodes are out right now, so you can binge BET Plus, Kingdom Business, season 1 and season 2. They're all out. That's where you go.
Okay.
And I don't have. You can find me on LinkedIn. Success by Design is the
Success by Design on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Okay.
I used to have a coin for a phrase for my classes. Don't leave success to chance. Design it.
Don't leave success to chance. Design it. Now, Mr. Catus just told you that you can find him on LinkedIn, Success by Design. So one of the things that I want you to understand is we had a great conversation today, and we talked about emotional intelligence and how to keep things in and how to persevere through everything that you're going through. Because as he gave you information about what he went through from Vietnam to present day, he continued to persevere. He had to adapt to every situation that occurred. He raised his family, but then he left us with a very powerful word, which is hope. And the reason I feel that he left us with that word was to help us to understand that if we have dreams and we have goals, we have to have hope that we can reach those dreams and goals. But we have to learn how to walk through life by adapting to every situation that comes to us. Whether we need to take a break and sit down and journal, whether we need to get on the phone and call a very humble person like Mr. Catus and have a conversation so that we can feel better about what we're going through to get to our next step. Whatever we need to do, that's what we have to do from a positive direction, using our emotions and our adapting skills to get to our next level. So guess what? You know, it's been your boy, Marcus A. Wright, and you know how to find me. You can find me on Wrightmentality on all social medias that's out there: Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, all of them, TikTok. But the one thing that I'll leave you with today is tomorrow. That's right, tomorrow morning, the word of the day will be Mr. Catus's word, which is hope. Again, it's been your boy, Marcus A. Wright. Peace.